Let's begin. Hello everyone, my name is Adish Morak, VP Product at CoderZ. I am very happy to host tonight's open demo and share with you the progress we have made over the past few months. Just as important, it is also an opportunity for myself and my team here with us to hear from you, our audience, what are your expectations from CoderZ and what you think of our progress and what our focus should be from now on. So during this webinar, we'll pop up a few polls to help us get to know you better. But there is also a chat box. Use it throughout the webinar to post your questions, and my team will do their best to provide you with all the answers. We've also reserved some time for after the demo for Q&A. So there will be plenty of opportunities to let us know what you think of CoderZ. For those of you who are attending our webinar for the first time, allow me to tell you just a little bit more about us. Intelitech has been a pioneer in robotics and education for more than 30 years. Our cyber robotics learning environment, CoderZ, is an online learning environment where students learn to program virtual 3D robots both in their classroom but also in CRCC, our cyber robotics coding competitions organized by the ISEF Foundation. CoderZ makes learning STEM with robotics accessible, affordable, and enjoyable for all, and it is fully compatible with the LEGO Mindstorms EV3. You can learn more about CoderZ by visiting gocoderz.com or by following CoderZ on Facebook and Twitter. A few technicalities before we begin. We will be recording this session and we'll share it with you and the other registrants. So as I mentioned, we also welcome your questions. To submit a question, simply type it in the question box in the lower corner of the GoToWebinar control panel or tweet it using the hashtag STEMinars. Okay, let's get this open demo started. On the agenda today will be some of the features we have just released, including the CoderZ Crash Course, Smart Blocks, and the Organization Admin. I will also share with you some of our upcoming features. These are not things way down the line. These are things that will be released during the month of September. So you'll get a chance to have a first look at it. So we'll be looking at features like the progress reports that we've been asked a lot, missions that involve the arm of the robot, and Learning Center. More on that later on. Let's start to talk about CoderZ Crash Course. Many of you already know CoderZ, and some are probably using our Coding Robots curriculum, a 45-lesson STEM program that engages students with robotics, coding, and STEM. This in-depth program requires time and dedication of both teachers and students, and while that is great, it is not always available. We understand those constraints that you are all facing, and since our pledge is to bring STEM and robotics to all, we are constantly looking for ways to make coding and robotics even more accessible. Yesterday, we finally launched the CoderZ Crash Course. After quite a while that we beta tested it with some of you, the teachers that are here today, some that are not, and CoderZ Crash Course is the fastest, most engaging way to introduce robotics and coding to teachers and students alike, without the need for any special equipment or installations, just a browser. CoderZ Crash Course is lightweight, requires little preparation time from the teacher, and while it introduces theoretical concepts, it's mostly hands-on. As CoderZ provides every student with their own personal virtual robot, allowing each student to practice anywhere, anytime, we are able to cover a lot of ground in a short time. The crash course requires only about 10 to 15 hours of lesson time, and expansion packs are in development. If you were to cover the same ground with real robots, that would have required a lot more resources, both time and money. Speaking of money, this course is available to all CoderZ users, no extra charge. To make things super easy and accessible, we have created a concise teacher's guide that will take you through every step of the course. The best way we think to introduce the course is to go through the teacher's guide and related materials, so you'll see it has everything you need. We are sure the teachers of various backgrounds will find it extremely helpful, and while seasoned teachers may only utilize parts of it or introduce changes, others less experienced will find it easy to use. So let's open the crash course, the teacher's guide. So a little more about the crash course. The crash course is based upon the training missions that we've developed with the CRCC, the Cyber Robotics Coding Competition that we had last year. We had feedback from over 30,000 students worldwide, and we were able to learn a lot about what works with the students and what works not as good. Based on that feedback, we were able to improve and add add to those training missions changes and improvements that made them part of the crash course. So the teacher's guide guides the teacher while the students are going through those improved training missions. There are over 50 training missions available in the crash course that guides the students step by step on how to program robots. The crash course teacher's guide includes all that the teacher needs, including access to the materials, the presentations, FAQs, hints and tips, suggested pacing for each of the sessions, and all in all, it provides the teacher the infrastructure and the scaffoldings needed to deliver this crash course. Going through the teacher's guide, you can see the outline of the course. We have 6 sessions available, starting with Intro to CoderZ, to STEM and CoderZ, followed by a session that focuses on how to drive the robot, navigation, using motors. We talk about topics like friction, for example, and drivetrains. Move on to the touch sensor, learning about how data is collected, how it can be used in code. Repeat loops, the gyro sensor, and then there's a final challenge in which we also discuss methodologies of problem solving. All these sessions take some time in class, but students are welcome to proceed and solve more missions from home or between lessons. Each session format is more or less the same. We have a presentation for each session in which the teacher follows it throughout the lesson. Every few slides, the teacher is instructed to let the students go through a few missions. And that is something that makes pacing very easy, because the pacing is embedded in the presentations, and I'll share one of them with you. The teacher guides also include some teacher notes, which are include a lot of tips and tricks and our best practice suggestion. For example, we talk about the solution that is available in every mission of the crash course, so teachers are not left alone. The solutions are only available for teachers, so students still need to struggle. They do have tips. The tips are available for everyone, and they don't hold the solution, but they do provide some guidance for students as to how that mission can be solved. Missions can also be restarted if you get frustrated. You can start over, get all the instructions that we provide, etc. There are more links to support articles and materials that can help you be better prepared to each of the sessions. Some of the sessions are double. They take about 2 hours, 2 sessions to complete, 2 lessons. All in all, the 6 sessions should take about 10 meetings with the students, each 1 hour long. This depends upon the previous knowledge that students has, of course, their age group, etc. We also have a YouTube channel in which we upload video clips that provide additional explanation as to different topics of CoderZ, for example, the drive block, which controls the robot navigation, how to use sensors, smart blocks, etc. So this is another resource that teachers can use. Each session has its own session plan, so we cover all of the sessions here. You can see the timing here and see how we estimated those parts of the session to go. There's a link to the slideshow. In every lesson we discuss, in every session we discuss something new. So there's a link to the support article. This is useful to read before the lesson and be better prepared. All the links are within the teacher's guide, and everything is available from here. The second session about Drive the Robot, it's a double session. Here are the objectives, the available and relevant resources, the pacing. You can see that it really guides the teacher what to do, go through slides 1 to 8, let students complete crash course missions 1, 2, etc. This is available for every session. As I mentioned, we are also working on expansion packs to be released late September to mid-October, to include additional topics like the ultrasonic sensor, the color sensor, working with the arm, etc. Fifth session talks about the gyro sensor, how to accurately control the robot's movement. So there are, again, links and missions. And the last session, the final challenge, focuses not only about put everything that you've learned to the test, but also to discuss how problem solving should take place. Lastly, there's an FAQ, how to get help, where to get it from, all kinds of questions that you may have regarding the content. Can my students access this from home? Of course, yes. How do I grade my students? Any additional curriculum? So everything is answered in this concise yet very useful document. So that's the teacher's guide. I want to show you one of the presentations used. I've opened session 3, and in session 3, I want to show you something. For each slide, we've included speaker notes. These are our suggestion only, but it will help you make sense of what we meant in each slide, what are we trying to achieve, and to communicate to the students. So you don't have to repeat it word by word, but this can give you a very good explanation as to what each slide is all about. That specific session introduces sensors for the first time. So we give a very quick explanation of how they work and what they're good for in terms of using them in a robot. And then we start hands-on. So there's a couple of slides introducing those concepts, and the students are then directed to complete specific missions, 22 till 28, and then the session ends. It's always recommended that if not all students completed the entire batch of missions, that they go home and they complete it from home. We see students helping each other, and I think peer learning is a very good aspect that the crash course allows. They can always come to the teacher has the solution. So there's a lot going on from the student's part. Each student has his own username and password. Each student get to experience firsthand. So unlike with real robots, when you have one robot per 3-4 students, with CoderZ, every student has their own virtual robot, and they can work with it and learn with it. Before moving on into the missions that complement the crash course, we want to get to know you better. So we have a quick poll question for you. We want to know if you're already using CoderZ, if this is the first time you're seeing it, if you've already purchased it. So let us know in the poll question that's now popping up. Excellent. So I see that many have not yet been using CoderZ. Some are doing the free trial. Some have been in the CRCC competition. Excellent. But we have a lot of new crowd here, and that's great. So I'll jump into CoderZ. You'll get a chance to see what CoderZ is all about. So this is CoderZ. This is CoderZ. I I want to start with a different mission. So let's go back to the mission center. This is the mission center, and there are all kinds of packs that I have here available. This is the pack related to the crash course. The crash course, as I mentioned, has over 50 missions covering multiple topics. Starting with mission 1, each mission has a brief. And so once the mission starts, the student is going to automatically get an onboarding tool, an explanation tool that guides him through. Since I've already completed this mission multiple times, it doesn't start automatically. I need to restart it. But for students, first time, it's going to start automatically. They're going to get this message. Let's play with power. Each of the missions in the crash course have those kinds of guided tools to help them learn what they need to from that specific mission. The first mission talks about power and how we can control the robot's speed by allocating more power to the motors. So I just follow the on-screen instructions. This is my drive block. It has a power input and it controls the robot's drive speed. Let's run it. So one of the things that we're doing in those training missions is that we allow students a lot of opportunities to experiment and even fail or make a mistake and learn from those mistakes. For example, the robot is now going to drive forward, collecting those points, but it's going to do it very, very slowly. So why did it do that? It's going very slowly because the power setting is 20 and that's too slow. The power value should go up to 100. So let's fix it. Once I click 100, the tool continues, and let's see if it's enough. So I ran my code. It wasn't good enough. I fixed it. This kind of empowerment for the student, saying you don't have to be a programmer to interfere with existing code, fix it, see how it works. That's the kind of motivation and efficacy that we want to create with students. Once I've completed this mission, I got a score of 100. I can move on to the next mission. Now we're going to need to go to drive backward. As you'll see in the simulation, the robot is now facing forward and all the points are behind it. A little bit about the simulation. This is 3D, so I can use my mouse and the right click to move the camera around. I can also zoom in, zoom out, and get a better look of the scene. As I mentioned, the simulation, the tour, I need to restart it as I already completed this mission. And now, as you can see, I get the same type of instructions to tell me what to do. Well, the robot is moving forward and it needs to go backward. So let's fix it. I'll just go here and make it go backward, run the code, and voila, the robot is driving backward. So we quickly learned how to control the robot speed and the robot's direction. Things get more complicated as students move forward in the missions, and they learn about using repeat loops. They learn about using the gyro sensor, and they learn about using the touch sensor. And they also learn something that is relatively new. It's called the smart block, and we'll get to that very soon, later in the presentation. So just a few more things in the simulation for those of you new to CoderZ. One of the things that we also wanted to allow is for exploration and free play. So in each mission in the simulation, students can activate the manual control and manually drive the robot around. This is not only fun, but when missions get more complicated and there's a need to use sensors, students can also open the HUD, the heads-up display. In the heads-up display, they can see values from the sensors of the robot in real time. For example, if I spin the robot, we can see how the gyro reading changes as the robot turns the other way. So it started in reading 0, and if it'll turn 90-degree right, then the gyro sensor can show that to us. We can build code based on those values. For example, I'm 1.5 meters away from the wall. Moving forward, we'll decrease this number. So playing around this way is not only fun, but it also provides the students a lot of opportunities to explore and understand how the robot sees the world. We see the world like this. I'm now in first person view. I just zoomed all the way in. This is what the robot would see if it had eyes like we do, but it doesn't. It has sensors. The sensors sees number. Now I can see that the truck is 166 centimeters away from my robot, and I can use it in my code as I create conditions and threshold values, etc. So I don't want to go too much into the basics of CoderZ. I want to move on and show you some of the new things that we're pretty excited about. So that's the crash course. These are the missions of the crash course, and we're very happy to have released it. It's available for everyone that purchased CoderZ. It's available for the free trial users, and you can find the crash course link. When you log into CoderZ, it will pop up the link. You can also find it in the Zendesk center. This is the help widget, and you can search here through all of our knowledge base. So I'll move on. If you still have questions regarding CoderZ, feel free to send them in the chat, and we'll relate to them later on. Back to the presentation. So we talked about the session format and the teacher's notes. We've shown the presentation. I want to move on to something new that we have released during the summer, something that we've been working for quite some time. These are the smart blocks. So what are smart blocks? Usually when you write a program, you use our blocks to create some kind of a behavior from the robot. Many of those behaviors are used quite often. For example, if I want to do a 90-degree turn, then it happens in many missions, and I need to write my code from the beginning each time I want the robot to make a 90-degree turn. The smart block acts like a function or like a subroutine. It allows me to put all that code that makes the robot turn 90 degrees into a single block, and that would be the smart block. So let's have a look in CoderZ. I'll jump forward to one of the more complex missions. Okay, so this mission is about repetitive food, and I'll skip the two, but just to give you a hint of what's going to happen, the robot will need to drive all the way forward, collect all those points ahead of him, then make a right turn, and then again move forward, and then another right turn, and another right turn, each time it reaches that wall. How is it going to know it reached the wall? Well, let's open the HUD and open the touch sensor. We can see that the touch sensor is set to false. I'll move forward using the arrow keys on my keyboard. Once I hit that wall, the touch sensor changes to true. So my code should look something like this. Drive forward, wait until the touch sensor is pressed. Then I need to make a right turn. There are a few ways to do it. I can do it time-based, or I can do it using the gyro sensor. Let's do it using the gyro sensor. So steering makes the robot turn. 100 make it turn to the right side. I'll make a slow turn so it doesn't overshoot. And I'll use, well, in this specific mission, I don't have the gyro available, so we'll do it time-based. It should take about this amount of time to make a 90-degree turn. I can test my code, see if it works, see if it stops, see if it makes the right 90-degree turn. Looks good. Now all I need to do is repeat this code. So I have a repeat block. It's defaulted to 1. I need to turn 4 times at each corner. Actually, I have 3 corners, but that would still work. I can have the robot leave a nice trail for me. Okay, so the robot turned a little bit over 90 degrees. I can just lower the timing here. By the way, since I'm screen sharing, it takes a lot of the bandwidth, so I hope the simulation that you're seeing is smooth, doesn't have a lot of lags. Okay, so I forgot. It's okay. So I use the repeat block to repeat this code, but things could be easier using the smart blocks. So I'll show you what are the smart blocks and how I can use them to create that kind of code. And the next time I need the robot to go forward until it reaches something or make a 90-degree turn, I don't have to come up with all the code yet again. So I'll open the smart blocks menu. I already have quite a few smart blocks available to me. One of them is called Tilt Touch. Let's import it and see what it is. I've created it in another mission, and now all I've done is to import it into this specific project. You can see now that I have a new tab, which is called Tilt Touch. If I click on it, I can see the code behind it. The code says drive forward until the touch sensor is pressed, then stop. If I go back to my main code, I can drag from the smart block the call block. The call block will call the tilt touch function. So actually what is going to happen is that once I run this code, no need for the repeat, I'll hit play. The actual code that will be executed is this. The robot will run forward until it reaches the wall, and then it will stop. I can then add my turn block. Let's turn slowly. So now the robot is going to drive forward until it reaches the wall, because that's the smart block is in charge of that. And things are very, very simple now. I can create a new block that will do just this thing. Let's create a new one. I'll call it a time turn right. Now I have a new tab with the time turn right smart block, and I can write my code here. So let's put my code here. The great thing about it is that once I set it, I never have to write this code again. All I need to do is import the smart block and add it. The smart block can be something basic like this, or it can be something more complex. So now I have two smart blocks. I don't need this one. All I need is turn right. Now let's run my code. So when it calls the tilt touch, it's going to go forward until it reaches the wall, and then it's going to call the second block, which is turn right. Demos always have their mishaps. Let's see what's the problem. Okay, the duration I gave is 180 milliseconds. That should have been another 0. Once I edit my smart block, it's fixed in every mission that uses this smart block. So if you improve your smart block, you don't have to do it over and over in each mission. You fix it once. That's the beauty of functions. That's the beauty of the smart blocks. So now it's going to turn all the way. All I'm missing now is the repeat. So smart blocks really make programming easier. They make the code easier to read, and they make students think in a more simplistic way, developing what is called computational thinking. They think about the problem in a more simple way. The robot turned too much. I can change it. For example, let's drop it a bit and rerun it. So as I was saying, our code now looks very, very readable. Tilt touch, turn right, tilt touch, turn right. So making the program more easy to read. It also enables the student to think about the solution in a more simplistic way. Think of it as a pseudocode. What do I need the robot to do in easy English, in easy to understand? To go forward until it touches the wall, then it needs to turn right. So these are the smart blocks. The crash course utilizes the smart blocks. We've added a few missions, and going back to the mission center. We introduced them early on because we want students to be using them even for simple tasks like turning right or left. So in mission 20, once they've mastered navigation, they're going to meet the smart block, import it, and then start using it. Later on, they'll be creating their own smart blocks for repeating and for the gyro sensors, making more accurate turns. So it's going to come very, very handy for them. So those were the smart blocks. We want to take another question, to ask another question using the polls. So if you can take the next poll, that would be great. We want to know what is your role, what role describes you best, so we can get to know you a little bit better. So we have a lot of teachers here. We have STEM coordinators, a few district administrators. That's great. That's the audience that we're after. We want to help you bring STEM to your classes, and that's great. It makes it even more important to hear your feedback and your thoughts about what we're trying to achieve with CoderZ, how well what we are doing serves you in the classroom. So feel free to also write in the chat box your comments and thoughts on that. Okay, let's move on. So we talked about smart blocks. I want to talk about something that might not appeal to all of you. I'll go through it very quickly. It's what we call organization admin. It's a new feature that we released during the summer, and what it enables is for a school, or even more important, a district, have a management system for CoderZ licenses. It might be a bit boring. I'll really run through it. An organization admin has access to what we call the manager.go.coderz.com. They get a number of teacher seats, a number of student seats, and of course, a validity and expiration date. And they can create teachers and create students and also track their progress. For example, I have an organization admin account. These are my teachers, and I can see that they're active. One of them hasn't logged in a while, but all the others are fairly active during August. I can see what's their score, meaning how many missions they've completed, how many seats I gave them, how many classes they opened, how many students they're using, and how well their students are doing in terms of average student score. So it doesn't necessarily appeal to teachers, but we have a lot of districts that are buying CoderZ for many schools, and they need an easy way to manage the licenses between teachers and students, and that's a very effective way to do it. You can create teachers, create students, manage them, reset passwords, all kinds of technical issues. And since we've launched it, we got a lot of requests of adding this. So if you already have CoderZ and want an organization admin account, no problem. We can provide an organization admin account for you. If you're about to purchase CoderZ, think if you need it. It's not a must, it's an option to provide another, let's call it IT management level of CoderZ accounts. Okay, so there's a question about the CLCC. Whatever we're doing applies to both using the Coding Robots and the Crash Course curriculum and CLCC. Smart blocks will be available for CLCC. We had another question that takes me to the second stage of the presentation, things that have not yet been released, but are in development and are going to be released in the coming weeks. I want to start with progress reports. Progress reports is actually a work in progress. I'll show you from CoderZ. This is a development environment, so this is not something that you have in your CoderZ account. But I wanted to show you things are in development. So this view that you are going to see is what we call progress reports and heat maps. So I have a small class with just a few students, and those students are taking the crash course. They have additional packs available to them, but for now, let's focus on the crash course. And what I get here is a heat map that tells me how well my students are doing. Each student has an average score in terms of his performance in the missions, and the students are sorted, so we start from the lowest score. So we can see who are the students that need our attention, our support. For example, Fuzzy Bear completed just 2 missions successfully. He's struggling with a couple. There are a couple that he was not able to complete. I can see that other students have been doing better, but the heat map is also color-coded. So if I see green color, it means that the student completed the mission successfully at a score that is equal or above class average. We can see the class average here. If the student completed the mission but at a score lower than the class average, then it's going to be marked in yellow. Red missions are missions that the student attempted but was not able to complete. And skipped missions get the gray color. So I can easily see how well my students are progressing. This is a sample heat map. I've played with those users to create that kind of differentiation. But usually what you'll see is a lot of green. The missions are built for success. They are built so students can complete them. And the steps between each mission is usually very, very small. So you'll get a lot of green, but you'll still be able to see not only where students are struggling, but also why. I can click any block here and see the score that the student got for this mission, how many attempts, how many time. For example, 13 seconds, that student didn't invest a lot of time solving this mission. If I click on other missions, then I can see no attempts. That's a red mission, 1 attempt, 4 attempts, 1 minute, etc. So this provides me a lot of insight as to what each student has been able to complete in the missions. Each student is going to be clickable, so you can click and drill into the students. And I want to show you how that feature is going to look at the end, because this is not a final design. So in the heat map, that's a more accurate heat map to have a look at. The students that need help are going to be sorted at the top, but you can change the sorting by name or from the highest to low. I can click into a student name and get a progress report. This is something that also is in development. It provides me a view of how the student is in perspective of the class. For example, his score is higher than the class average, a number of average attempts per mission, tips used. These are demo numbers, so don't get excited. And I can also see the individual progress of that student, how well he's doing in each of the missions. And if I want to have a closer look, then I can click on each one of those sections and see what are the specific missions that the student was struggling with. For example, how many attempts and how many tips did he take, the duration, and later on we'll also enable the option for the teacher to click on the preview and see the solution that the student had for that specific mission. So you can also you will also be able to go into those missions that were completed successfully, see what was that great code that the student wrote, or also see about the missions that he was struggling, why he was struggling, what was not going well for him. So progress reports with the heat maps and the student progress is something that we've been thinking a lot. We've got a lot of requests for making something like this. We've put a lot of effort into making this very, very simple to use, very easy to navigate, and very informative without creating a clutter of data points. So I would be very happy to hear if this is something that you find useful for you. We will release it early September, so once you have a chance to play with it, please share your thoughts with us. Let us know what is important for you, what works well, what's not very good. We can fix, we can work, we can improve. So these are the heat maps. Hope you like them. Moving on, we're going to work on ARM missions. The ARM missions are going to utilize the ARM, and within those missions, we're also going to add a new element called the switch, in which the ARM can interact with. There's also going to be a box that the robot can drag and drop. So it's going to add two types of new interactions for the students: the flip of a switch and the pulling and pushing of boxes. And that's going to add another layer of complexity to the missions, but also another layer of playability and gamification, as missions will become more fun to play with. So our missions are something that are going to be introduced in the second season of CRCC, our Cyber Robotics Coding Competition, but they're also going to be introduced in the expansion pack that we're working on for the Crash Course. And that's also going to be open for everyone as soon as we complete the development for it. So our missions are also just around the corner. Lastly, what we have is something that we call the Learning Center. The Learning Center is more of an organizational, not sure I picked the right word. It's just putting things in a nice, neat order. And I want to explain because it's going to affect every user in terms of the interface. When I go into the Mission Center, I get a lot of packs. And each pack can include even 54 missions. This makes it a little bit not user-friendly to interact with. Moreover, when you complete the last mission in Crash Course, then you're going to jump into Coding Robots, which is a different curriculum pack, and they are not connected. So it makes it a bit of a struggle to orient. The Learning Center will introduce a new hierarchy called courses. And it's going to look similar, but not exactly the same. The main change is going to be to the way that you will navigate between missions. So you'll have a course name, and in the course name will populate it with multiple packs. And each pack will be small, up to 20 missions, and include topic-specific missions. This means that the Crash Course, which is now just a pack, is going to be broken down into 7 or 8 packs, and that way it will be easier to see the missions that are relevant for this pack. You'll be able to click on the drop-down menu and navigate to another pack, and in that you'll see the missions that you're going to have. We're also going to embed the curriculum as a mission. So you might have a mission, and then you're going to have a link to the presentation, and then maybe a link to a trivia question. So the Learning Center is not just changing the hierarchy, adding courses, but also adding or bringing in the curriculum into the Mission Center, which will be renamed Learning Center, with videos, with presentations, with quizzes, and of course, CoderZ missions. So down the line, and that's not far away, everything you'll need will be within that mission pack available for you. And when you go to the heat map, you'll be able to track not only the missions that the student completed, but if there was a presentation or a quiz that they needed to take, it is also going to be available for tracking in the heat map. My apologies. Just to wrap it up, all those topics that we've discussed today, and I'll do it quickly and then we'll take some questions. So we discussed the CoderZ Crash Course, which is a lightweight curriculum pack that allows teachers to quickly bring students closer to STEM, robotics, and coding. We've shown smart blocks, which introduce a new way to write programs that are easy to read, that focus on the computational thinking skills. We've shown the organization admin feature, which allows better management when you have multiple teachers, especially for districts. And we've also shared the upcoming features that we're working on, including the progress reports with the heat map and the student progress, the R missions, and the learning center. There are more things up ahead. We're working on pages, for example, and we're working on more advanced smart blocks, more missions. We're working on a new type of missions, which we call puzzle missions. So there's a lot that we're planning to release in the coming months, and I hope that all those new features will be things that you'll be very happy to see. You have your opportunity to impact the way that we develop CoderZ. So if you have any suggestions, feel free when you go into CoderZ, click on your profile, click on the feedback, let us know what you think, and let us know if there's something specific that you want us to have. Once you send the feedback, it's going to get directly into my inbox. So please use that feedback. We have another question for you. That question in the poll is about how excited are you, or what are the features, the upcoming features that you're most excited about. It's important for us to hear what are the things that are most important for you as teachers. Oh, I see things are shifting from progress reports to the crash course. If you are excited about the smart blocks, the organization admin is not very exciting, of course, that's understandable. So the crash course is definitely the most exciting thing. Then the smart blocks and the progress reports. Wow, that's invaluable information for us to know what are the things that are most important for you. And the crash course is something that we've been working a long time, improving all the missions that we had before, putting them together into a coherent, lightweight pack, and we're happy that you're excited about it. Let us know your feedback. Your students can also provide feedback. The feedback option is also available to them. So if that is okay by you, please encourage them to help us make CoderZ better. Let them know about the feedback. If they struggle with something, if they think something can be done better, send them to the feedback and tell them you can write your words there. Your voice will be heard. So please, please let them know. It's time to take questions. I've received already a few. First question is, what happens when the crash course is over? The crash course should allow about 15 hours all in all of engagement for the student. We are working on expansion packs for the crash course, but if you have more time available to you, then maybe the Coding Robots is a better alternative to the crash course. The Coding Robots curriculum pack is a 45-hour curriculum, but it is something that you can even break down to 2 parts or even 3 parts, so it can take less time. So if you have more time than 15 hours, one way is to wait for the second part of the crash course, the expansion pack, and the other is to consider Coding Robots. My best advice would be reach out to us. We can schedule a call, one-on-one call, hear about your needs and your expectations, and help you find the best way to use CoderZ in the classroom. So, that is something that is available for everyone. Okay, so there's a question about language support for the crash course. So the crash course is available in English. It's available in Spanish. Next week, we are also releasing it in Hebrew. And I think in a couple of months, it will also be released in Arabic and Portuguese. So we're working on multilingual support, and English and Spanish are the main languages that we're working on. But as again, Portuguese is joining soon, Hebrew, Arabic. You need more languages, just let us know. Okay, additional questions that I got. So regarding what the student will be able to see in terms of their progress. So we have not yet consider that functionality of allowing the student to see their heat map. They do get a chance to see how they're progressing within the missions as they see those V's and those points. It might be a good suggestion to add that heat map to them. One of the things that we're working on are badges, and badges will allow the student to see how well they're progressing. Badges are something that are earned going through missions in CoderZ, and students will be able to earn badges both in CRCC and within the curriculum packs that we have. The more they complete missions, the more badges that they're going to get, and they're going to have accessibility to see how many badges they've earned and what those badges are and what badges still yet to be earned. So that is something that we're working on. Going through additional questions. So there's a question about how can I tell what mission my student is on? That's a very good question. Actually, the only way for you is just to see in the heat map the last, so you can see by that. It might be that we'll add that kind of functionality later on. So you'll either see it in the heat map or maybe when you click on a student. I think that, at least from my perspective, it's very important to hear those kinds of questions and needs. So please, whenever those kind of ideas or questions pop to your mind, put them in the feedback. I'll get it to my email, and we can work on those kinds of features. That specific request is very easy to do. So we might do something like that fairly quick. So going through the questions that you've sent. So there's a question from Donna about an interactive component where students can work remotely and collaborate. This is a dream that I have, allowing collaboration in CoderZ. Unfortunately, not yet. The visual code editor that we're using is Blockly, is developed by Google. Google are planning to make Blockly something that works with Google Drive and Google Docs. So hopefully that kind of sharing and collaborating will come from that end, and we're definitely counting on it. But I don't have a timeline, and if it's not going to be done by Google, and then we'll have to figure it out for ourselves, and we definitely want to do it. So hopefully this is something that we will have, but not in the near future. There are more questions, and they're great questions. So there's a question about how to use all those kinds of things for the CRCC. Once you enroll to CRCC, then you get access to CoderZ. You don't need a trial account. There's a different environment just for the competition. So no need for using the trial. You can go through the trial just to get better acquainted with CoderZ. More questions. Until when the crash course will be available? It's going to be available from here until your license expires. So there's a question about how do teachers add students. I haven't shown you, but it's fairly easy to add students to your class. These are my classes. So here is a class that I have, and I have an invite student button. Students can either join in. There's a problem with this class. No, okay. Either by using this link. That's not a good example. That's an old class. I'll set up a new class. So each class, when I create a class, has a class code. With this unique class code, students can join in to their teacher. This is unique to that specific class that I'm setting, that is called test 1, 2, 3. Logging into CoderZ, there's an option to join class, and they just put this code. If I don't like it, I can shuffle it for another one. I can add description, and I can either share a link, share the class code for them to self-enroll, or I can just send them invites like this, and I can copy paste from an Excel all the roster and the emails of the students, and they're going to get invites. If they're below 13, they'll need their parental consent. We comply with COPPA, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. So that is something that is worth mentioning. Thank you for that question. Wow, there's another excellent question about considering letting the community develop mission. We definitely want to get there. We have our internal tool of developing missions, and I think that it will mature into something that will also be accessible to teachers, but that's down the line. We will be happy to take requests. So if you have an idea of a fun mission, let us know, and we'll develop it, and we'll even credit you for it. So this is something that, at least for me, send it in the feedback. You can even have a lesson about it for your students. Students, think of missions, send it in the feedback. If I see a lot of emails with mission suggestions, I'd be happy to provide a detailed answer on those suggestions to the teacher to make it, to close the loop with the students. So we'll take just one last question because we're nearing the end. Okay, no, I think when we get support on the missions, will the another teacher who's implementing. Okay, so there's a question about homeschooling. Well, for homeschooling, it depends whether they are part of the district school system, because if the district bought a license, they provide the teacher access, and the teacher provides students with access. So homeschoolers will probably not be able to use that kind of licensing. We have pricing for standalone licenses that you can purchase, and that's a good alternative. You can use the trial. It's just a couple of weeks, but it might be enough for quick and diligent students. So that's the time that we have for questions. I want to mention something important. Before that, one last poll question. We'd be happy to reach out and have a call with you and discuss your needs and how CoderZ can accommodate those. So let us know in the poll if you'd be interested for us to reach out and have a conversation about CoderZ for your school, for your class. So. Okay, so let us know if you're interested in us reaching out, discussing CoderZ for your school and for your class. I'm getting a lot of yes. That makes me happy, and that's definitely something that we would want to work with you and see how CoderZ can be a good solution to bring STEM to your students, to your schools, and that's great. So those of you that said yes, will definitely reach out. Those of you that said maybe later, then this is an open invite. Just let us know when you're ready, and we'll be happy to have that conversation with yourself, with your administrators, with your district, with whoever is relevant. Just before we wrap up, I want to mention that with us today is Kim Colazzo, and Kim Colazzo is going to host our next webinar come September. So please sign up. She's going to show how CoderZ is being used in her classroom with girls, and I think that it's not only about bringing STEM to all students, it's also about the diversity and how to bring it to specific populations. And Kim Colazzo has a lot of experience and that she will be sharing in our upcoming webinar in September. So first of all, thank you for Kim Colazzo taking the time and participating in today's and preparing our next webinar. And please sign up for her upcoming webinar next September. This webinar was recorded. We'll share the recording with you. Feel free to pass it on and share it with your friends. This has been a pleasure for me, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And all I'm asking is for you to let us know what are the things that are important for you, how we can make CoderZ something awesome for yourself, for your students, and help us bring STEM, and with your help, to bring STEM to everyone. So thank you, have a great day, and may the code be with you.